I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Dwayne Butcher of Flexware Innovation, and I'm excited to bring to you today this short webinar. You'll also see on the screen Natalie Roberts, who I will introduce momentarily. Just a few points of orientation before we dive in. We know that most of you that are registered are going to be watching this on demand. For those of you that are live, just know that we are recording this session and we'll make it available following the event. Look for an email from me tomorrow morning. We did set aside an hour for today's session, but we will likely not use all of that time. So that leaves a little bit of space for question and answers. And then we'll probably still allow you to reclaim a bit of your time, even if we do get into a good amount of Q&A. So for now, let me go ahead and briefly introduce our presenter for today, Natalie Roberts. Natalie is a member of Flexware's Enterprise Solutions team and brings a background of problem solving and technical ingenuity to the business world and to Flexware customers. Her expertise comes from digital process automation, robotics process automation, and utilizing Microsoft Dynamics applications. She boasts several Microsoft certifications, including being certified Power Platform Solution Architect. So with that brief introduction, Natalie, thanks for being here, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate the introduction and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Have some exciting things to share with you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Initially, I'm going to go through the PowerPoint that I have. This is just to get a base understanding of what we're trying to convey today. And this will also be available. Dwayne can provide this later. So you guys can have this to review as well. But today we're focusing on digital process automation, specifically with accounts payable invoicing. And you'll notice it also says with infused AI, so we are going to be looking at artificial intelligence as well. So let's just jump right in. I need to find my PowerPoint screen. Whoops. Okay, here we go. Okay, so a lot of people on this call and whomever might be watching, there's a lot of different levels of understanding of what digital process automation is and what robotic process automation is. So I like to start with just a base understanding of what is this and why is it important? Why should we pay attention? So digital process automation and robotic process automation are tools, software tools that help eliminate tedious, redundant, and monotonous tasks for the end user on a day-to-day basis. It also helps improve data integrity because you're using these processes over and over again. And because it's software, it works every time, just how you've programmed it. These tools can be customized for different companies to meet their needs and goals. And that's why it's important to understand how these tools and technology works because, you know, this is no longer, we're not talking about future, this is now. These are things that people are using today, things that we've implemented over the past couple years. And so this is really the time to start understanding how we can apply this technology and help everyone around us succeed at the end of the day so that, you know, when we're all succeeding, you know, that's a win. So I'm not going to get too wordy on these. You guys are free to read, but this is just kind of the summary of what these tools are and how they can kind of help. Now, I've mentioned two different kinds of automation. There's robotic and there's digital. What's the difference? So robotic process automation, this was a term that I was only familiar with, but this is the type of automation, and think of something where you are the end user on your computer screen and you are clicking and maneuvering around on your screen to accomplish a task. Maybe you're logging into something, entering in your time, logging out. Maybe you're logging into something else to approve something and you need to click on the screen or hit enter or maybe even enter in a couple of numbers or some text. And so this is what robotic process automation is is using the interface that you would interact with on a day-to-day basis on your desktop. Digital process automation, as it says here, it happens on the back end. And this is typically accomplished by using application programming interfaces. And what this does is it allows a secure connection directly to that data source. And so you can update information in real time, you can retrieve information, and ultimately what I'm going to show today, you can incorporate, artificial intelligence to help um, finalize that solution and really bring everything together without having to use multiple different tools to accomplish one process. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And we'll go ahead and keep going here. How can this be utilized? There are many different ways that both robotic process automation and digital process automation can be utilized. Typically, we like to use digital process automation primarily, and this is really for data reporting and visualizing your data, understanding where the inconsistencies may be, catching the bad data, and data validation. And so these are just some of the ways that this can be utilized in also with artificial intelligence. You'll see it at the end there. Why would you want to use this at your company? There are a few different examples here, but one of the main things is that you're creating a centralized way and standardized process across the board here to help your company be consistent and also to help, like I was talking about before, data integrity. But not only that, you're also impacting the end user. You're helping make their daily tasks easier or even eliminating those time-consuming tasks that they're doing. And so it just helps overall the health of the company, right? And so not only are you helping your company, but in turn, you're able to deliver better to your customers because you're using these tools and the technology that we have to help reach those goals. So we are a Microsoft Gold partner. And as Dwayne mentioned before, we're certified in several different areas of Microsoft. But I'm going to be showing you a tool today called Power Automate, and I wanted to show you guys the platform of tools that Microsoft has. And so it's called Microsoft Power Platform, and there are many different items that they have in here that you can utilize to help your business grow and manage lots of different scenarios. So we have Power Virtual Agents, for example, and this is great because you can handle scenarios maybe where it's out of normal business hours, or maybe you need something where you don't have customer service and you need a virtual agent to help chime in and help handle some things that are simple, or maybe just retrieve things for customers as they're coming onto your website and interacting and providing information. We also have Power Apps, which you can create rich, easy to identify user interfaces. And this helps the end users interact with data in a simple format that can help accomplish tools or tasks that you might not otherwise have access to. Um, but you can create those things to have access through Power Apps. And then lastly, Power Automate, which is what we're going to be discussing today, is the tool that we use for digital process automation. We also have a business intelligence team, and so they use Power BI. And this is how you can create business analytics and really understand how your business is doing and find points of interest and where you can improve. So all of these tools are very great as standalone applications, but when you bring them all together, it creates a powerhouse of solutions that you can access. Now, this is a real world solution. This is what I'll be going over, but I wanted to put it into black and white format for you guys so you could understand the initial process and the end goal. So the initial process here and the example for the AP invoice automation is we have a client, or let's say yourself, you're receiving in an invoice from your email inbox. And the normal process would be you receive the invoice, you say, okay, I've got an invoice. Next, I need to open it up, look at the data, enter it into my ERP system or whichever source system that it's going to live in. I need to check and validate, make sure that the invoice matches my purchase order, and you're just validating data, and that takes time. And so what we've done is created an end-to-end solution that incorporates all of those things digitally. And it's automated for you, so you don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. And so that's why the power of these tools is so awesome, because you don't have to think about it. It's something that just happens on demand and it works every time. So this example, we're bringing in an invoice in the format of a PDF. We have a Power Automate flow that's going to trigger once we retrieve that email or that PDF. And in that flow, we're going to then use an AI model that's been trained to retrieve certain fields on the invoice. And this can be customized per vendor or per invoice if you need to make specific customizations. So the AI model is very important here, because what we're doing is we're identifying information that we need, but not only that we need, we're validating that the data is there and that it's accurate. And so the AI takes those accuracy points, and they're called confidence scores. And what we can do with that is we can look at these confidence scores and say, well, are we confident? Are we 95% confident that this data is correct? If yes, go ahead and process. That's great. We're confident. We have all the data we need. This looks good. Process it. If it's under 95% or whatever threshold that you've set, maybe you would rather have somebody double check, or maybe there should be a stop in the process where you need to review and say, hey, this doesn't seem as consistent, and we're not getting the accuracy we want. We need to review this. And so this allows automation to be happening and making decisions for you that you would otherwise have to be making throughout the day. So this is where it really saves time, but also you're ensuring that your data is accurate and correct. So that's the AI piece. So we're in the middle of this. We're extracting the data, we're validating it. Now what do we do? Now that we have all the data, it needs to live somewhere. So we're going to take that and we're going to connect through an API, through digital process automation. We're going to connect through an API. And on that back end, we're going to take all of that data that we've just extracted, and we're going to upload it into our ERP system or whichever system it needs to live in. And then ultimately, we can send an alert to the end user, or maybe there's a shared email inbox that says, hey, we've processed this invoice, you're good to go. And so now we have a process end to end where we can eliminate those time-consuming tasks for that end user with validation, accuracy, and all these checks in place. The only question is, why aren't you doing it? So I'm going to go ahead and get into the live demonstration here, and we'll show you how this works in real time. So I'm going to be looking at my screen, so that's what I'll be doing here. All right, so I am in our Flexware environment, and this is finance and operations. And the section that I'm in particular is called the pending vendor invoices. And this section is where, as it sounds, your invoices come in and they're sitting in pending until either certain processes have happened or until somebody has manually come in here and checked all the boxes, right? So this is where we're going to see the invoice be populated. We're going to see the lines of information. There's a few examples in here already, but the current invoice that I'm going to be bringing in does not exist in here, okay? So before I show this, I wanted to bring up the AI model since I mentioned how important it is and how this works. We can see right off the bat here that this particular model has a accuracy score of 97%, which is excellent. This is great for an AI model. That means that 97% of every transaction that you're processing is going to be accurate. Now, this can be improved through many iterations of training the model and modifying maybe your invoice and how you extract the data. But I'm going to show a quick test here on how this works so you guys can understand how the data is being extracted. So I have an invoice, and generally speaking, like I said before, this is going to be received in through my email. Now, if companies have, this isn't the only way you can receive an invoice. Let's say that you have a file folder or a shared inbox or somewhere else that your invoices live. You can have digital process automation or Power Automate Flow read where those files exist and pull them in. And so it doesn't just have to be an email. You know, there are AI models that read business cards. You can take pictures of things, and AI can do incredible things with that data. So this is just one example to keep in mind of the power of AI. So now that this quick test is done, I'm going to go over what actually happened. So you can see there are certain items here that were highlighted, right? And so if I hover over this, this is telling me, oh, I think I found the invoice number, and I'm pretty certain of it because it has a 99% confidence score. So earlier when I was referencing those confidence scores, this is how we can see this. This is real translation of a practical solution that, how does this work? We're taking all these really strange technologies, we're throwing artificial intelligence in there, process automations. This is how you take an interesting idea and apply it to something that's useful. I also have a table of data down here as well, and it's extracted every column in each row. That's awesome, right? So we're iterating through these rows of data, we're extracting it, we're checking our confidence scores, and this confidence score is a little bit lower. And so how I can improve this is by providing more documents and more training. When you're training AI models, there are a minimum amount of documents required depending on the type of model that you're trying to train. But the more documents and more examples that you can provide will give you better confidence scores and more accuracy. So, I mean, imagine if, you're a huge enterprise company and you're processing hundreds of invoices a day and you're doing this manually. This is a no-brainer solution. I mean, this is something it's going to happen. It's not, like I said, this isn't a future thing. This is happening now. So this is how the AI model is trained to extract this invoice data, and this is how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and do the real fun stuff. I'm going to send myself an email, and I'm going to have that invoice in here. So we're going to have to wait just a second for me to receive that email. And while we're waiting, I'm going to review here. So we can see that the average run duration for this process is a little under a minute. And so if I'm taking tons of documents, let's say I have 10 of these documents and they take me 5 minutes each to process, that's about an hour's worth of time. And so if I'm spending 1 minute or less than a minute per document and I have 10 documents, now we're down to less than 10 minutes of processing time. So not only have we eliminated the amount of time, but you're also checking for data and validation at the same time. So it's running hand in hand. And not only that, but you've alleviated that end user to free up time for them to focus on something else. So I'm doing all of this talking and all of this, blabbering about automation and how cool it is. And right now I'm having this system is running for me, and it ran successfully. It's already done. But what it's doing in here is running through a sequence of steps, and you can see through each step it has to go through and validate and ensure that that data is there, that it's passed those confidence scores. And once that happens, I'll refresh this. I have an invoice in here. So it's extracted those same data points that we saw earlier, and it's inputted them into the system. And I'm going to refresh here and see how long this run was. 42 seconds. So in 42 seconds, we have now populated an invoice, and we can see that it's also brought in the lines of data that we were viewing over here in our table. And we can see that it correlates to the same numbers. And additionally, we brought over the PDF attachment. So for the end user, ideally, they're going to have a bunch of invoices coming in. Digital process automation is going to process all of these things for them on the back end. Mind you, this can be happening over a 24-hour period. They don't even need to be awake. In the morning, they can come into their pending vendor invoices, and they can have a list of all the items that have been brought over. And so it doesn't stop just here. So we've brought all of this data over, we're validating it, we've input it into the system, we have all of these checks and balances. And lastly, finance and operations has additional automations inside F&O. And so you can see that some of these have passed, and this one is not run yet, so it's in a failed state. But this is going to go through and check additional things that an end user would be doing. And I actually have an expert on this who is joined me today. Tim, I wanted to ask if you would elaborate a little bit on these back-end process automations and what they do after it's been brought in here.
Yeah, Natalie, this is where kind of the rubber meets the road. It's like, what do we do with this data? What Microsoft has done with Microsoft Dynamics 365 for supply chain is added the ability to import all the data that you just mentioned through RPA and the AI model to take that data and move it into the system. Now, we don't just want to post that data directly into the ledger, so we've got to do all the standard normal stuff that we would expect an accounting system to do. So the invoice comes in. We're going to check it against a purchase order to see if that purchase order even exists. If it doesn't, it places it into a pending invoice queue for further review and analysis. If the PO does exist, the next step is to check to see, is there a receipt there, so that we can complete a three-way matching. If everything matches up, then it continues. And if there's no errors on the matching process, which is all based on standard validation parameters that every company sets up, then it goes into a posted invoice, and it's just hits the ledger automatically. So what's nice about this is the data comes in, we don't really have to touch it. We use our standard business logic to do all the steps going forward. And as long as there's no errors or no inconsistencies, then that invoice goes through all the normal processes without a person touching it, and it posts directly to the ledger as an approved and matched invoice to both the PO and to the receipt. And all that's done through setups, parameters, and workflows that operate automatically.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. So, as you guys can see, this is an end-to-end process, and this is something that everyone is doing. Everyone's receiving invoices. Everyone is sending invoices out. Everyone needs to validate their data. Everyone needs to ensure that they're following best business practices and that they're keeping up. Because once you fall behind, you have to play catch up, and there's a lot that comes with that. So getting ahead of the game, understanding how these tools work now is the best way to get your foot in the door. And this is really it. So this is the whole piece of automation. So we really appreciate you guys coming on here and watching. And Dwayne will probably make this available as well. But yeah, I'm open for any questions if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. It's funny, you see all these LinkedIn posts about what's going to happen in a year from now, and 5 years, 10 years from now with AI and some of these automated processes, and like you said, it's here.
It's now. Yep, it's
So
here.
it's not really a matter of whether someone is going to use this
Yep.
in the near future. It's just a matter of when
Yep.
that's going to
Exactly.
happen. So certainly
Exactly.
appreciate you coming on here and maybe helping establish a little bit of a baseline for a number of our listeners. So
Absolutely.
I do have a couple of questions. We
Sure.
ask questions as people registered, so let me just run a couple of these by you. How do you evaluate what processes are most suitable for automation? I'm sure not everything can be automated, right? So
Right.
what's that process look like for evaluating those
Yeah.
opportunities?
So there's kind of two sides of the coin here. Some people will come to a consulting company and say, "Hey, we have this, we have this, and we need to automate it. We know this can be automated. This is our pain point. This is the problem. We need automation. We know RPA is the solution." We have the other side of the coin where people are very timidly sneaking in the door for automation, and they're thinking, "Well, we do need this, but we don't really know how it works. It's kind of just this, it's this other technology. It's something that doesn't really make sense. I don't know how to apply it. What are we supposed to do?" And so in those situations, really in both of these situations, we as a consulting company, we come in and we don't want to throw everything that you have out. We want to make sure that what we're bringing to the table can offer you a scalable solution, and that's meeting the end goal needs of your company. Not everything can be automated. Not everything should be automated. But a lot of processes that we do today can be, and processes that you think might not be able to be automated can be as well. So the first step is just considering, hey, are we wasting time? Are we wasting resources? What can we do better? And asking those questions will start leading into more questions where it's, okay, this is a repeatable process. This is something that we should be considering. And then also, joining these webinars and spreading your knowledge helps you understand how these tools can apply so that you can help answer those questions for your company.
Tim, I see you're on here. I'm curious, being our resident Microsoft Dynamics expert, how have you seen much of in the way of adoption of these types of tools and interacting with Dynamics, or are we still kind of in the infancy? I'm just curious what you're seeing.
That's a great question, Dwayne. We're seeing a kind of a early adoption where you've got some companies that definitely want that automation, and those companies they have the common problems, right? Their workforce is inefficient, inconsistent, unreliable, and they want reliable processes, and they want to do what I consider time redistribution. They're not looking to remove employees, but they want their employees to be more effective with their time. So by taking some of the monotonous transactions away from them and putting the data in a place where they can make decisions rather than spending their time processing data is a much better way of using their time. And that's what we're doing here with this is we're getting the data in, and then we're allowing those business managers to make decisions on what to do next with that data. And so that's the big benefit. Now, many companies just don't understand the technology or how to apply it. So they're still a little fearful of the technology. So part of this webinar and part of what we're trying to do out in the field is really just trying to educate them of how the technology can help them. This is a real life example with accounts payable with real life impact, and it drives real results. You can see the ROI immediately when you implement something like this. And that's what we like to see, is to help businesses to run and be more efficient, drive that ROI, help them to be more effective. And ultimately, when they see one use case go through, they do want more. They
Yeah.
begin asking questions, how I can do this in other parts of my business.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going to be one of my observations, is that once you've uncorked the potential here, uh, the ideas for how it could be applied probably just start streaming, and then there's who knows where the end is.
Yeah, one great
Absolutely.
example. So we talked about emails and PDFs, but we have a client that takes a picture of a form and they send it through the system via photo. And we're able to apply the same AI models to read that information and process it through the system. And that creates a very hands-off approach as well. What I like about that is we can take a picture of any document. We just have to teach the AI model what to do with it and how to use that information. So I'm finding there's all kinds of use case scenarios out there. We just need to educate our clients on how to apply the technology.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Early on, Natalie, you showed teaching the AI model and its confidence score.
Mm-hmm.
That if something is 95% confident, it'll go ahead and process it. I could see that maybe causing some concern with people saying, well, only 95%.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the human interaction with some of these systems, what's its confidence score? I mean, you're
Yeah.
not getting 100% accuracy,
Right.
even in a human to computer
Right.
interaction, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's important to understand the technology as a whole because, it's not that it's 95% and we're missing something. It's that, we've trained it and it's 95% certain that this is what it's located because it's been trained to identify that. And every time it works, that confidence score can get better and more accurate. When you're doing human interaction, we actually had a real solution that we applied for a company, and they lost a ton of revenue. They lost so much money because of data inaccuracies, and they're sitting there entering in, Excel line after Excel line. I would make mistakes easily, and we implemented a RPA solution for them, and they had a 100% success rate. So no data inaccuracies. Everything was performed correctly, and not only that, but they had a party because they were so happy they did not have to sit there for hours and hours processing Excel sheets. And so it's not only a win for the company, it's a win for the end user as well. So that's why it's important to understand how this technology works because, like you said, you might be nervous, but the nervousness, you're nervous about anything. You'd be nervous about being behind and not caught up with current technology. You'd be nervous about losing money. So it's all about having an understanding and exposing this technology so that people can do better.
Yeah. And Tim brought up an important point. You hear this when we talk about robots out on a plant floor, that we're not looking to replace people, right? You're looking to free people up to do the higher level thinking and
Exactly.
not doing these monotonous routines, right?
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
that's an important point. And I know we had a client in the past where a couple of the folks were literally in tears because they didn't have to do this work that they so dreaded,
Yep.
and freed them up to do more interesting,
Exactly.
more creative type work. So
Yeah. Yeah.
certainly an important point there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I don't know if either of you have any parting thoughts or not. I think we'll go ahead and start to wrap up here. Any concluding thoughts you want to leave with the audience? Maybe how to get started or what next steps
We're
might
we're
be.
always here for questions. Ask questions, be curious. And
Yeah,
that's what we're here for. So,
Yeah,
perfect.
we love the challenges, and I think when a client has a use case scenario, we'd love to talk about it. And it's one of those things where we would like to prove what the technology can do for you and show you that it works, and then you can make the decision from there. It's ultimately it's an easy decision when you see it work. So we like to make sure that clients can see it work for them first, and then once they see the use case, then it's an easy buy. It's easy spend for them. They can see it
Yeah.
and see the real results. It's an easy answer.
Well, you guys are doing some creative and interesting work, so really appreciate you taking time to share with us here. Kind of some of that work that you're involved in. So Natalie, thank you for the webinar. Tim, thank you for coming on and joining us. And thanks to those who are watching this on demand. We will have additional webinars like this coming up, so please stay tuned. You can always find upcoming events at flexwareinnovation.com/events. And I will be sending out, for those who are live, I'll be sending out a link to watch this. Do consider, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on demand, consider using this as perhaps a lunch and learn. Bring all your folks into a conference room, provide lunch, It's an opportunity for you to not only learn a little bit about the technology, but to discuss with your group, how might this apply to our organization? That's a very powerful way to use this type of content. So would love to see you take advantage of that. So for now, Natalie, Tim, thank you. From Flexware Innovation, thanks to everyone who tuned in. Have a great day.
Thank you.